Oh yeah, what up? It's your boy XX Magic
Oh my
Master
God, it's
420
definitely you.
XX,
I've decided it's you.
and this is the Pioneers podcast, or just Pioneers podcast. I'm James, and this over here to my right is introduce yourself. We're doing it. This is not a dry run.
This isn't a dry run. Oh,
No.
Okay. Well, I enjoyed a 4-hour dry run last time.
Yeah, we've already done the 4-hour dry. Yeah, sorry. Go on. Introduce yourself.
My name is Max Cummins, and yeah, Pioneer Podcast. Here we are.
Yeah, I don't actually go by the handle XX Magic Master 420XX, but
Liar.
I might now.
You should.
Yeah, so this is our
It's
second.
better than your actual name, James Sharman. Get it changed by default at once.
This is. Yeah, I'll go to the courts. This is our second run of this, because the first run was nearly clocking in at a whopping 3 hours, and I often say that the Watchmen film is obscenely unwatchably long, and so I don't know how I'd expect people to watch this if they're not going to watch. That's an action-packed movie.
It's often said, isn't it, that brevity is the soul of wit, and I think that that's a sentiment that I can get behind, and was certainly evident in our rewatching of our 3-hour extravaganza.
So we're gonna extravaganza. So we're gonna. Yeah, no.
I'd like to just take a side point to disagree that Watchmen was an action-packed film.
Yeah, no. Watchmen is god awful. But my point is, people will watch it, but it's like 3 hours, right?
But James, who watches the people that watch Watchmen?
The FBI.
Oh, yeah.
FBI agents.
The NSA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is a podcast actually about the Magic the Gathering format Pioneer, which we're both...
And the film Watchmen.
No, we're not going to be talking about that anymore. That's it. In fact, it will never be mentioned. It will never be brought up again. So we're going to... we have next to no credentials when it comes to actually discussing this.
I wouldn't say next to no, James. I would say no.
No.
We're not adjacent to nothing.
I personally have played a few sort of F&M events of it. Yeah.
I've built a Pioneer deck, and I have consumed a lot of Pioneer content.
Yeah.
But that being said, we've both been playing Magic for collectively, between us, a good 15 years or so.
Probably, yeah. I've been playing on and off for quite a while, and you've been playing pretty consistently since you started, right?
If we're going from first Magic product purchased to now, then I've been playing for 21 years. I think that actual useful playtime in that probably closer to 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we both play an awful lot of Magic, and I'd like to think we're pretty
That's
decent.
made me remember, actually, the first Magic product I bought was a Return to Ravnica. No, not Return to Ravnica. The original Ravnica City of Guilds, one of the starter sets. It was the Dimir box, and it had a card called Dimir House Guardian, which had Regenerate. It was just some stupid
It's a skeleton with Transmute, I believe.
Yeah, and it had Regenerate. Nice skeleton, and it had Regenerate, and at the time I thought Regenerate just meant you can just pick it up out of your graveyard just whenever you fancy.
Mm-hmm.
And so very often it would just be the best card in the deck, because it's can't kill it. It's impossible to get rid of. Great,
can't lose.
Yeah. So yeah, that's long story short why you should listen to us. And our opinions
between
on,
us we have
Pioneer.
We've got 6 game day champion wins
between us. Yeah, that's quite a lot. Got all these mats. So but yeah, we're both fans of the format, and we'd like to give you, I don't know, our kind of insight on it, I guess.
Yeah, I think this project really arose from both of us being able to wax pretty lyrical about the format, and I think that both of us come from very different perspectives, when it comes to evaluating cards, what makes a healthy metagame, and what makes a healthy competitive format. Because I'd say both of us are pretty spiky. Both of us, want to do well and enjoy Magic when we're winning.
Yeah.
So I think that through that and through an experience kind of lens, and you know, Pioneer with it being a new format and so on, when I've looked and so on, there's been plenty of people that are, you know, existing Magic content creators that have gone, oh, let's have a quick look at Pioneer, but there's been nothing dedicated for them. So, you know, I thought, why not give it a go? Why couldn't that be us? Besides the long list of aforementioned reasons why it probably shouldn't
be us,
but,
right?
Hey,
yeah.
I never stopped, you know, people before us. So let's go for it.
I think the nice thing about like Pioneer as a format as well is that it's a bit, it's kind of like that eternal. It's an eternal format that is a bit more accessible because Modern is like a hilarious train wreck of a format that's ludicrously expensive to buy into. Vintage and Legacy are for rich people and hipsters.
Yeah.
Standards are garbage, and has been forever. Yeah. I mean, okay. No, joking aside, Standard is probably one of the most accessible, but because it like rotates constantly, it's like you're gonna have to be constantly like losing decks that you enjoy playing.
Yeah. It's nice to have an eternal format that exists where the barrier to entry isn't right. Here's the set of shotlands, sorry, fetches that you need. You know, we do have shotlands, but I mean, the legality of the set, it's from Return to Ravnica onwards. It's incredibly new as a format as well. It's only been going since October 21st, 2019. So as such, you I mean, we're still in this like honeymoon phase with the format, really, where like there's so much like new creative stuff going on, where every set that's coming out, because it represents a much bigger slice of the overall kind of card pool than something like Modern, can make a huge splashy impact and like completely bring out completely new decks. So it's just really exciting to be, you know, at the forefront, you know, being pioneers of Pioneer. So
see, you did the thing. Yeah,
I'm all about the word games.
I'm personally really excited for when they finally release a standalone Pioneer product, and it does something similar to Modern Horizons and just absolutely breaks the format over its knee, and it becomes miserable and unfun, just like every other Eternal format.
Hey, I mean, it'll get that. I mean, I imagine with
don't at me, Legacy players, because everyone that ever do this, they're like, you should play Legacy. It's like, yeah, well, I don't have thousands and thousands of pounds to just shell out on a deck that's gonna a format that's also dominated by, well, we'll get to him.
Well, I think that the thing is that Legacy can be as healthy as you like, and that, you know, unless you have a dedicated Legacy scene at your local game store, there's just no point, because it's so hard to find a pool for it.
If people that enjoy Legacy, you know what, you go out there, enjoy whatever format you like, really. But I have strong opinions. On things like this.
No, James, surely not.
I don't. Look, you can enjoy Legacy if you want. Whenever someone starts talking to me about it and how great it is, I glaze over. I just boop. I'm gone.
So we're actually recording this at a pretty exciting time. So as it stands, we're currently it's the weekend of January 31st. Brexit means Brexit. Woo.
Come on, let's
but it is GP or Magic Fest or Players Tour or whatever it's called at the moment, Brussels, which is a big Pioneer event. So it's quite possible that everything that we're going to say during this podcast can be thrown in the fire. But we're putting our money where our money is, and
we're putting our money where other people's stat websites are.
Exactly. So we're basically going, right, here's our hot take on the format, and very, very quickly you'll be able to tell us if we know what we're talking about. I'm predicting we don't, but that's part of the fun.
So that's kind of, I think you've got a little taste for who we are and what our kind of attitudes are towards things. So we go to our first topic of discussion, which is a bit of a format overview. We're going to have a look at the ban list because, you know, I like I said, sometimes strong opinions. Some of the cards on the ban list. I think overall, the ban list has been pretty good.
I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah. So should we just have a little breakdown of what's on there? So we've sort of given a bit of an overview of the Pioneer format, I think, already. So let's have a look. So first up on the ban list was the straight out of the gate, it was the 5 fetch lands, right? They were just like, you know what? If you want a mana base that's gonna support more than like, let's say like 3 colors, you're gonna have to put in a little bit of work. You're gonna have to play, you know, like fixing spells rather than just be like, you know what? Play all these fetch lands, and the format's gonna be. I mean, I suppose also there's not all 10 fetch lands. If they had fetch lands, right, there wouldn't be all 10. So they're just like, you know what? Let's just cut that right out, and that was the start. That was so that we went into the format with just those bans, and then pretty quickly they've been like kind of picking off like problem cards and trying to curate the format into something a bit more. I don't want to say more mid range. Well, I suppose it is more mid rangey, isn't it, than sort of other formats tend to.
Yeah, it's a little bit slower than the other Eternal
other Eternal formats. Yeah. So the first cards to hit the list were, and I think this is the one that a lot of people saw coming.
So this is November 4th. So the format had been running for barely any time at all, really. What, like 2 weeks, I think. And then the first sort of batch of data was in, because that's something we should actually explain. I imagine most people watching this are going to be already aware, but just in case you're not, the philosophy that they adopted for this, so that they for the format of Pioneer was quite interesting, because they basically said, look, we're going to launch this as a format, but we're going to put it in a sort of like an open beta stage where rather than reeling off a whole list of cards that we expect,
so it's going to be full of microtransactions.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be full of microtransactions, loot boxes,
and cosmetic options. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to be like an open beta sort of stage where it's going to be filled with memory leaks and all sorts of other like release ready features. Hashtag fix arena. Also, Wizards, would you like to sponsor us? We only have nice things to say about your games. So it was in this open beta stage where they took actual data from decks people were playing to have probably a much smaller but much more reflective ban list of what cards were actually problematic. So they initially said, you know what, the interactions between fetch lands and shock lands in this format is going to be too much. We want something to differentiate it from Modern and to pare it down. We don't think these lands are healthy for the format. We don't like them. They're going to be banned. Great decision. Love it. Something to actually make this format both financially accessible and not have every deck be like 3-4 color.
Oh yeah, I mean,
card soup.
a good portion of the problem with Modern, to me anyway, about getting into it is just like the mana bases are just like, it's the big chunk of the money just goes into lands, which I don't think really like feels good from a like a beginner standpoint.
Right? Oh my god, I absolutely hate that as a new player, just sitting there like, oh right, cool, I can make my my green-white tokens deck better. What are the best ways to do that? And it's like, right, cool.
Inception sound, £5,000 of shocks, fetches, horizon canopies, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that. And then November 4th, we had the initial 3 of Felidar Guardian, Leyline of Abundance, and Oath of Nissa just chopped off the top.
So the first one you mentioned there, Felidar Guardian, the old copycato combo.
Yeah, so why did they ban that one exactly?
Why did they ban it? Well, have you ever heard of a little thing called Splinter Twin?
Pray tell, James. What is the Splinter? What is the Twin?
The Splinter Twin is an old Modern deck where you have a card, either Pestamite or what's the other one? Deceiver Exarch, right? Yeah. Which you could, a 3-mana creature you could flash in, and it untaps or taps like a permanent, basically.
Yeah.
And then Splinter Twin was an enchantment that you tap the enchanted creature and it makes a copy of that creature. So you can then, that copy of that creature, like a token copy, comes in, you untap the original one, you make another one. So you just make infinite Pestamites or infinite...
But James, those cards aren't legal in Pioneer.
No, they're not.
Why bring them up?
They're not. But this performed very similar role with Saheeli Ray from
Kaladesh.
Was it Kaladesh, Ray through Revolt? I don't know. I actually wasn't playing during that time. That was my
it's probably for the best. It was garbage.
Yeah. It was bad.
It was very bad.
So she was a planeswalker, had a minus ability that let you flicker something. I believe, or
Yeah.
make a copy. Sorry, did the same
Yeah,
thing.
make a token copy of,
Yeah.
of the creature.
Yeah, so you just make a copy of the Felidar Guardian. The copy comes in, blinks the Healy, and then you can activate her again. And you just do that, and you've got infinite cats. And then you hit your opponent with all these cats. They had haste, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how it works,
All the token copies gained haste. So you made infinite 1/4 hasty artifact creature cats, and you punched your opponents in the face with them.
Yeah.
And Wizards decided that the ability to do that pretty consistently in a 4-color soup deck on turn 4 maybe wasn't particularly healthy.
Yeah, I mean, like, so infinite combos have been around since forever, but I mean, the problem with this one is just like it's so lean. You have 2 cards that just randomly trip and fall and win the game together, and the rest of your deck can be built around either interacting or stopping your opponent from interacting with things like the Fairy Time Raveler jammed in there. And then the next card on the list, actually, which I believe is Oath of Nissa.
Yeah, Oath and Leyline of Abundance, which I think can really be talked at as like as a duo, because I think they're really partners in crime that went in the same deck.
So Oath could be played in this copycat deck, however, because it's 4 colors, and Oath let you fix your lands, but also let you cast all of your random planeswalkers that you had, just kind of with reckless abandon. You know, you didn't have to really like. It just easily fixed your mana for it.
Because that's one of the best and healthiest, I think, things in Magic is when the color pie doesn't mean anything. It's probably sure. I think that's usually one of the signs of a healthy metagame. Where it's just like actually just play whatever.
I mean, Oath. I think Oath is like a weird looking ban because it like seems like fairly innocuous, right, by itself.
Yeah, it does.
But it's just a card that, like, sorry, go on. I've talked about.
Well, I mean, Oath survived the standard that it was legal in totally fine. Like it was a card that decks played and so on, but it was pretty innocuous. I think the problem is that when it's one of those cards that, like, as the card quality in a format increases, and without access to really busted like filtering and looking like stuff like Ancient Stirrings, it has it provides a card in itself, so it replaces itself, and then it just has this like upside, which is great in these 4-color suit decks, which aren't really healthy and look good anyway. Or it's good in green ramp, where you go like you accelerate out and then you drop a fatty, and this just helps looks for it, or it helps find your land, to cast the fatties that you already have in your hand. So it just provides this like consistency and smoothness to decks that are already powerful.
Yeah, and I think that's with the banning the fetch lands. That's obviously something they didn't want to like have carry on. So yeah, this thing, and I mean, let's be honest. If you can just jam all of your War of the Spark planeswalkers one after the other, then good time for you.
You're playing
right?
Standard, right?
Yeah, you're playing whatever format basically, right? You're playing anything from Standard to Legacy. Maybe even Vintage.
I mean, the Vintage as well, right? There's like Narset is being called to be restricted in Vintage.
What a great set, huh?
I mean,
War of the Spark.
I really like the design of a lot of those static text planeswalkers, like the beneficial ones, like Ajani Greathearted and stuff, giving your guys vigilance, or Sorin giving your guys like lifelink on your turn and stuff. Like those are cool. But it's just like, oh, by the way, guys, we're going to take some good cards originally that give you a card value straight away, like Narset and Teferi. And guess what? We're going to stick some really obnoxious prison text on them as well.
Yeah,
isn't that going to be fun?
Con is always a fun word to put on cards.
Yeah,
I think
it is.
The last,
not only that, but also making them like only hurt your opponent as well. Nonsense.
Yeah. One-sided can't effects are good. And then as you sort of alluded to, there was in the same list there was Lane Island of Abundance in this initial wave, and I think this all came out of the fact that the really dominating decks in the first like few weeks of Pioneer was mono green kind of ramp decks, and I mean, so ley lines, eh?
Hey,
well, hey lines.
All about them.
Ley lines are just absolutely disgusting cards. Not just because they're like have stupid powerful effects, but because they're like free. I mean, they're turn 0 free cards that you can play. Essentially, even if your opponent goes first, you can just plop them down at the start of the game. I think they're just like I think ley lines are just like absolutely disgusting design cards, and like Not just this
Leyline
one
of
in particular,
Abundance,
but
I think was like, oh my god, it's particularly shocking that made it through R&D as like a healthily designed card. So like for ages, Wizards were like, no, we're not going to have 1-mana accelerants in our formats going forward. We don't like them. We don't like Birds of Paradise. We don't like Elvish Mystic. We don't like Llanowar War Elves.
leads to some
By the
degenerate
way,
game states where it's like you're on
Yeah.
on the play, you get to go turn 1 elf, turn 2 whatever 3-mana thing, etc. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Pioneer, we have effectively 12.
12,
I mean, 12 of those being legal. You know, we'll leave Arboreal Grazer out of the discussion for now.
Yeah.
But if you narrow that down to ones that always work, the traditional dorks, Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Elves, you've still got 8. So you've got 8 of these cards that are really, really
And
good.
the last 4 being the Gilded Goose, just to
Gilded Goose, of course. Yeah, ignoring Gilded Goose for now.
Yeah.
So 8 of these cards are fantastic if you just drop it down on turn 1. It just lets you skip ahead and go to and start casting 3-mana cards on turn 2 and so on and so forth. Now, Leyline of Abundance basically.
What if?
What if that but better?
Yeah.
And it stacks in multiples as well. It's really silly. It's silly with Nissa, who's another War of the Spark problematic Planeswalker card. The card was gross and disgusting, and it really when you had the redundancy that you have with those 1-mana dorks in Pioneer, it was just made much more of a pressing problem than it is currently in Standard.
Yeah. So you have your leyline good leyline opening, and you're casting like Nissa on turn 3.
Yeah, you can go like turn. Let's say you have like turn 0 leyline. You go like turn 1 land dork, and then turn 2 you can go like drop a land. You have 4 mana available.
On turn 2, you can play a questing beast.
Yeah, you can go like questing beast, or like better yet, like more dorks.
And then just jam Ugin the Spirit Dragon on turn 3 in a format that's supposed to be like a mid-range format. You're playing Tron at that point, aren't you?
Yeah,
like
and we all know what a blast Tron is, and
what a great time. Yeah, big brain deck Tron.
Oh god, yeah, just windmill slamming Khans, just like whilst drooling, staring dead ahead at your opponent, whilst like you watch the light leave their eyes. That's what we wanted in Pioneer, and that's why these cards are gone.
Cowboy hat on, lasso spinning in your other hand. Yeah, screaming Gihor.
James, come on, this is a family-friendly podcast. It should be said, by the way, it wasn't just decided that these cards were oppressive. There was some like data to back it up as well. Both Sahelian and Green Ramp had exceptional numbers of 5-0 finishes and favourable matchups against pretty much the entire field. Like this is like Wizards of the Coast has basically, they've cut the data from Magic Online and basically said this isn't healthy. So that's where this comes from.
Yeah.
Right. Fast forward to November the 11th. What got banned then?
On the list, it's telling me that the next thing to hit the cutting room floor was Veil of Summer.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. So you might notice a reoccurring theme in these ban lists, but green cards tend to crop up quite a lot.
But James, I thought that green just provided big dumb creatures and
ramps. Yeah, traditionally, creatures and ramp spells. But you see, these days, Max, green also draws cards, counters your spells. It provides card advantage, filtering, the best creatures, the great removal spell, anything you want, really.
Usually, all of those are like wrapped up into one neat little package.
Just several thousand lines of text on, but Veil of Summer, speaking of several thousand lines of text, is essentially a 1-mana cryptic command on the draw card counter spell mode very often. And while it doesn't technically say counter target spell, it effectively does. It does that and more because it provides a lot of different forms of utility. It's great.
Oh yeah.
It's great in a combo deck to protect your kind of combo. It's great in just like creature decks to stop their removal spells or their discard spells. It's great against mid range because again stops removal. And it does all that whilst cycling, so you're not actually down a card. Its absolute flaw. This is just 1 green essentially cycle if you're in the right matchup, which you mostly are a lot of the time, because blue or black spell then also opens up all of the multicolored cards that run off
Oh
of
yeah.
blue and black. So yeah, Veil of Summer. Thank God this one's gone, because
Yeah.
nah,
I mean,
too much.
I don't have much to say about this that you haven't already covered. The only thing I'd say is that when you have a card that basically says, "Oh, if you try and interact with me, it's going to punish you really, really hard, and for a very, very low cost, or pretty non-existent cost, I'm going to be able to turn off your way to interact with me and continue to progress my game plan."
Yeah.
When you have that present in one of the color that's the most dominating in the format at the moment, it ruins a meta game, and I'm very, very glad this card is gone.
So it's a sideboard card for sure, but it was so oppressive in the matches that it's brought in against, like so obscenely oppressive that it's like, thank God this one
choked out control, choked out like reactive mid-rangey kind of decks.
Not good for the format. So this one's out of there, and we're both obviously quite pleased about that. So what is the next card on the list?
So we've got a whole doozy. A trio of cards were banned on December 2nd. So we have Field of the Dead being the probably the big one of the three. We'll talk about the other two shortly. But they were Smuggler's Copter and Once Upon a Time.
Okay.
So
yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Field of the Dead, eh? You like clans, don't you? You like clans.
Yeah, so Field of the Dead was one of those cards that when you first read it, you were like, oh, cool. It's sort of like a neat lands build around. I need 7 different names of lands to get this to work. And then I just start making tutus. Oh, okay, so it's late in the game, I get a couple of tutus here and there. It's the reality of it is turn 4, zombies. Do you know what? It's too fast, too furious. You just get swamped.
The Cranberries are firing up their lawsuits, yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Exactly. It's awful. It's the card was so oppressive because all of the typical strategies to counter your board being swarmed just didn't really work against Field of Dead. Wrath, no, don't care. Rebuild the board in a turn. Whilst playing cards that just otherwise just refill your hand. These big ramp cards and then huge Hydroid Crises. Hydroid Crises.
Hydroid Crises.
It made it's one of the and you'll see a trend in this list where it was one of those cards that was banned because the strategies, the counterplay that's normally good against this style of deck turned out to be bad against it.
Yeah,
and besides, you
have Field of Ruin in the format, which is a land that lets you destroy a non-basic land. But the problem with that is that you might have maybe 2 or 3 copies of Field of Ruin in your deck, and you just kind of have to sort of trip and fall into them. Whereas these decks often had a lot of ways to just search out their Field of the Dead, and you only need 1 sitting on the field to just grind away at the game pretty quickly. And if that gets destroyed, you go get another one, play another one, play 2 at once. Things go pretty wild pretty fast, and they can always just sideboard into just a more regular kind of creature-y deck and not actually have to rely on field anymore in the post-board games. So
yeah, I watched quite a few games actually where they would get hit by a I can't remember the particular sort of name of the effect, or Unmoored Ego or Lost Legacy or whatever effect it was. And then they'd be like, right, cool, I've beaten the Field of the Dead deck. And then just started slamming big green dumb creatures, your questing beasts, your whatever else it was at the time.
Yeah.
And
take a pick,
Oh no! The green deck has threats in it.
Help! No. It's not working. Yeah, I mean, and this deck was it was pretty the kind of I think the bigger, more popular one was a kind of ban list of it. Which is,
ban Field of the Dead. Yeah,
Supreme Verdicts and Sphinx's Revelations and a bunch of ramp stuff and Field of the Deads, and it was quite it was pretty boring linear deck, to be honest. In the game one, didn't really have a lot of interaction outside of Supreme Verdict, which isn't. I mean, it's not really an interactive spell. It's just derp reset type
Yeah.
thing, you know. So yeah, these decks were like pretty tedious. So field, I think, and field is one of those cards that's just gonna, you know, the more stuff that comes out that does stuff with lands, like the harder it's gonna get to control. So just yeah, cut it out. So what was the next one on the list after?
The third one was Ponder. No, it was Dig Through Time. No, wait, Once Upon a Time. There we go.
Just I was gonna say, what are you from some strange future where you know more than us, time traveler?
I was just listing some of the best draw spells or cantrips.
Okay.
That the format's had, you know.
Once upon a time, you say, yeah.
Yeah, Once Upon a Time. So Once Upon a Time was a green spell because, of course, as a 2-mana instant,
Wait, 2 mana? Don't you mean
0? Well, exactly. We'll get to that bit. So it's 1 and a green for an instant that let you go and search. I believe it was top 5.
Top 5 cards of your library. Yep.
Top 5 cards of your library and search for, was it a creature or land?
Creature or land card. Put them into your hand.
Yeah. Reveal it. Put it into your hand. So this. But if it was the first spell you cast in a game, you got to cast it for free. So it has a really flavorful upside of basically once upon a time there was a questing beast or a Llanowar elf.
More likely, yeah, a Llanowar elf or a gilded goose.
Yeah. So what this deck, it looks pretty innocuous, but as we've learned time and time again, cards that let you cheat on mana costs in some way, like, you know, think back through Magic's history to mechanics like affinity and stuff like that, it became really obnoxious really quickly.
Phyrexian mana.
Phyrexian mana was fine, James. Like
what a mistake. What a huge mistake. Blue
should definitely get a 1-mana kill spell in Dismember. Phyrexian mana's great.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful little piece of design that basically looks great flavor-wise, but then the gameplay that it creates, because you just jam 4 of these in your deck, increasing the likelihood of having it available for the turn 0 play. Also, turn 1, but for free.
Yeah.
But it meant that you could run lower than normal land counts because you could dig 5 cards. You had this ability to dig 5 cards deep to just find the next one.
Yeah.
You could run these kind of like silver bullet creatures or whatever. Like if you were running like a sort of a more kind of like combo oriented list, you could find the pieces for that. It just meant that if you were playing a green deck, you just got this free consistency that other colors just don't get, where you could just look 5, because 5 cards is
5 cards
really
is a
deep.
lot. 5 cards is 5 cards is a lot deep, and it also with the London Mulligan let you keep some like pretty suspect looking hands, or just like mulligan down to like your ideal opener of elf into probably Oko. Let's not kid ourselves. Sorry to bring him up already, but
let's not kill ourselves.
Yeah. And you could just very, like Max is saying, like get that consistency.
Yeah. So yeah, very, very glad Once Upon a Time is gone. Really sad to see that design space like be almost wasted on a like it's a really cool idea for a card. Like Once Upon a Time, getting sort of some kind of payoff or incentive to do this for free at the beginning of a game is awesome. But the problem with it then just being a good card, even outside of that scenario, looking 5 cards deep, it's like almost a better impulse, but the blue cantrip impulse,
yeah.
but in green, which the green shouldn't really do.
They should make it look 7 cards deep, and you should be able to take 2 cards, and they should call it Once Upon a Dig Through Time.
There we go.
But make it green. Don't make it in blue. Just make it just green.
Once Upon a Dig Through Time. That's it. Are you?
Sorry, I just
Reddit goal.
I remember
if you, put that on
one of the
Magic the Cycle Dragon.
One of the first Pioneer events I went to. Somebody was playing like a 4-color. It's pretty cool. It's just like a 4-color mid-range energy deck, and they were playing Once Upon a Time. Their first turn, they go okay, before my land drop, play Once Upon a Time. Play a land, play a Gilded Goose, make a food, and then they just look up at me and go, "Look how many game actions I've taken." I just cracked up. It was so funny. So yeah, what was the next card in this little group?
Oh, finally we have Smuggler's Copter, a card that wasn't getting played in green decks so much.
Smuggly boy, yeah. So it's just like a 2 mana 3/3 with flying, which is cool. Whatever. And it's a vehicle, so you have to crew it to make it a creature. And whenever it attacks or blocks, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So it kind of loots as well.
The looter scooter.
The looter scooter, as they called it. Yeah.
And then on December 2nd, it became the band wagon.
Nice.
With two ends.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us, oh mighty blue-white control player, what
it's
is
not fair.
Card?
You can't wrath it. You can't wrath it on your turn. What the heck? Like, it's very unreasonable. It was just like a card that was pushing aggro decks like a little bit. Maybe like making them a little bit like go over the top. It's like, because it turns off from being a creature on your turn, it's just like can be quite awkward to interact with. It's the sort of thing where you're like, okay, well, it's an artifact. Maybe I can bring in some artifact removal, but then like the rest of their deck is like, the lists playing this were typically like mono red, mono black aggro decks.
Yeah.
And so if you're bringing in artifact removal for this, like you're not hitting like the other 56 cards in a
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not hitting their lands, but you know what I mean. Like, yeah, it's awkward. So it's just like a really awkward to interact with. And on top of that, it just kind of like with aggro decks, they often don't need very many lands. So they get to kind of like filter through their deck more and like keep finding like more threats while also hitting you for three. Three is a sizable chunk to be hitting you.
Oh yeah,
like each turn in the air as well.
It clocks you out. Yeah, it being evasive and a 3-power threat. Swing in from turn 3 onwards, or it's really, really mean.
Yeah, and plays well on defense because you get to loot just when you block. So
I think the mono black aggro deck that was utilizing this, I think probably the best. So this one was the really dominant strategy.
They were running some terrible cards to make
but what they got to do, because they were playing all of these like zombies and scrap heap scroungers and stuff that you got to get back from the graveyard. So you could just like chuck them in, or like fuel for your scrap heap scrounger, and then like just bring that in and just provide this virtual card advantage where you were getting like whilst it was saying draw and discard, it was effectively just saying draw, because you got to chuck things that you wanted in the graveyard. It was almost I think some people were surprised to see this go, because whilst it was a really fast clock and so on, everyone was like, oh, but it doesn't feel bad when I lose to mono black aggro.
I just got hit by aggressive creatures, but like I think what's telling about this is that the decks that were using this post its banning are still like some of the top tier decks.
Yeah,
which I think is a sign that maybe this was just like a little too much, in there. I think to be fair, I think this is potentially like in the format like a fringe-ish case. Card, but I think like as it goes onwards, I think if you want to not make just every if you don't want to make every format just be a mono red aggro Lamau, then you want to probably, I mean, I'm saying that I have no idea what standards like at the moment. I hear mono red like aggro decks are a bit bad, whatever. So but yeah, Smuggler's Copter is just like,
yeah, it was pretty oppressive and hard to interact with. Required specialist tools, provided consistency whilst clocking your opponent out. All in all, and obviously went in any color deck.
I think it was hilarious that mono black decks were playing Night Market Lookout, which was a 1-mana 1/2 that when it tapped, it deals 1 damage. Yeah, you did it just so you could tap it to crew the copter and get in 4 points of damage rather than 3.
Yeah, that is it's a 1-drop. What's not to love?
Amazing, absolute terrible card that was seeing play thanks to Smuggler's Copter. So,
we're closing on the final pair of banned cards. I think
the final pair, just 2 more, hey?
Just 2 more.
So what are the big two? The big 2 finishes to lead us out, because I think these were some good
Can we have
ones.
A drum roll? Like a. Can we have some?
I can. Okay, just imagine there's a drum roll going, and I'll edit it in post.
Oh, excellent.
So just give it a minute. And the next card is. Okay, say it now.
Oko, Thief of Crowns, and Nexus of Fate.
Oh yeah, woo!
And the crowd goes miles.
So, which one do you want to do first? Because, like, I mean, I've got Oko up on screen.
Oh, honestly, give me a gun with 2 bullets in it, and Oko and Nexus of Fate in a room with me. I'd toss the gun aside and beat them both to death with my bare hands. Like,
nice. Yeah.
I hate these cards so much.
You sure you could get through his abs? I've got his abs up on the screen.
His rippling abs.
He's got there's like 12 of them there on each side. I don't think humans like work like that, right? Or maybe, I don't know. I haven't been to the gym in like years, so.
Oko, thief of gains.
Weak. I'll edit that one out if you want.
It's fine. I'll
edit in something funny instead if you want.
Why not just a big picture of Oko? Because that's fucking hilarious. That design.
I mean, he's up on screen, so we can have a little talk about him first, and then do Nexus last.
Yeah. Want to go for Oko? Do you want to talk us through his sort of like anything you want about Oko?
So I mean,
go nuts.
We all know, like, we don't really need to tell people what he does. He's 3 mana. He takes up to 15,000 loyalty. He's unkillable. He dodges all removal spells ever. No, I mean, like, obviously I'm over exaggerating a touch, but like this card, man, he's seeing play in has every format that he's not banned in.
Yeah, and he's banned in 5 constructed formats.
So what we got? He was banned in standard eventually after the abysmally boring to watch GP.
Yeah.
Like, let me not pull my punches about that. That everybody saw that GP going the way it did. The top like 8 was just like 7 Oko decks or whatever, like 7 Simic or Sultai like food decks. Everyone saw that coming, and they were like, "We'll let it go. We'll let it go through." And it was exactly what everyone expected. It was really boring to watch. It was just a bunch of tedious mirror matches. Sorry. Anyway, yeah.
Watching a train wreck in slow motion. We all knew it was going to happen, but we couldn't, stop ourselves from looking. Yeah. It was absolutely like fascinating to see the series of decisions that led to that event happening. Oko being printed in his current state, not being banned in time, and then hosting the event of that format was just a trio of decisions that
what was some top quality content there was watching or listening to the commentators trying to make just like literally like 8 games of mirror matches one after the other for the finals, like all like semis and all that kind of stuff, just having to try and make all those mirror matches like exciting, which they weren't. That was some credit to them, credit to the coverage team.
I would not have enjoyed being on the commentary team for that.
So banned in standard eventually, banned recently in modern, banned in a brawl on arena, or just
brawl on arena and historic on arena.
Historic and the one more, or is that it?
Pioneer. Yeah, Pioneer.
Yeah, the whole thing we're talking about. Hey, yeah, nice. So yeah, I mean, he slices, he dices.
Yeah, he comes down on turn 2, and but
Max is 3 mana.
Llanowar Elves and Elvish Mystic disagree. Oh, and Gilded Goose, of course, in the decks that are okay. Turns out that Beast Within is a pretty good card, and that having repeated access to that, along with the ability to just gain a boatload of life, or produce a random string of permanents to turn into your own set of 3/3s, is just incredibly, incredibly good. And he also, having the ability to just swap permanents around is also has uses as well. Being able to give your own opponent a food in exchange for their like Hydroid Crisis is just. It's like, oh yeah, he does have 3 abilities. Will catch people out. Way too often. The card, again, I think was good design, but had too much loyalty, cost too little mana. It was just way too efficient and oppressive, I think. And it doesn't even create like good fun gameplay, because he was good against big creature decks because he elked their stuff. Good against small creature decks because he gained a load of life and made 3/3s. And good against control decks because he just creates a steady stream of 3/3s and comes down super early. And when you have a deck that's good against that like triumvirate, like what's not to love?
Yeah.
Oko is an abomination, and I hate him and his stupid rippling pecs.
Very flavorfully though, named Thief of Crowns and steals the crown off Jace the Mind Sculptor for best planeswalker ever printed, I think.
Oh yeah, like it kicks him in the nuts and takes his lunch money.
Yeah.
Honestly,
like Jace the Mind Sculptor, unbanned in Modern, met with a huge so what? Whatever. He's good. We'll play some copies, I guess, in like a control deck.
Yeah.
Oko Thief of Crown shows up and is just like, listen here, boyo, get out of here. I'm running this show now. Me and Urza, we're going to take this format.
We're going to drive it to Vegas.
Yeah, we're taking this party bus all the way through town.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, glad to see. Do you know what? He actually lasted way longer in Pioneer than I thought. I think initially they were like, maybe it's all right. Oh, no. He's just now we've started banning other stuff. Oko is just dominating everything.
So everyone was getting like quite worried. They're like, oh, it's been the format's been going on a while. God, if they don't ban Oko soon, maybe all the hype's just going to die out of Pioneer. He was legal for literally like less than 2 months. He was barely legal for any time at all in the grand scheme of things. I think, but it felt like a lifetime.
I think everything with Oko feels like way longer than it is, just because he is that like dominant on formats. So
yeah,
you all know, if you're watching this, you're probably well aware. Oko Thief of Crowns, quite a good card. Definitely deserves banning.
Our hot take is going to be like sizzling hot now. This is exactly the content that the internet is clamoring for.
This is the lemon and herb take that Oko is too powerful, and thank God he's banned. And I'm interested to see. I mean, I've got no interest in playing Legacy, but I'm interested to see how long he lasts in those like eternal formats where he's, still seeing some dominating play.
Yeah, I mean, there was that moment in a vintage tournament, wasn't it, with someone swinging in for lethal with a Black Lotus elked.
Yeah, like
elked his own Black Lotus to just swing in for lethal.
Yeah,
what a great card.
Yeah. Lovely stuff. And so, I think this is the last one on the list.
Yeah, absolutely, the last of the banned cards.
But certainly not least, it is Nexus of Fate. I think I actually might hate this card in the deck that it goes in more than Oko.
Oh yeah,
like a personal thing, on a objective like power level thing. In a void, Oko's obviously the stronger card, right?
Mm-hmm.
But oh my god, Nexus of Fate and the decks that it goes into. So I mean, did you want to say like what the deck is, the reclamation deck that this sort of...
Yeah, so I'm going to lead into that, but with like a little bit of information first. So Simic Food, so the deck that Oko Thief of Crowns was, the linchpin of, had a close to 60% win rate on MTGO at the time.
That's
it was
high. That is a high win rate.
That's against the field collectively, roughly 60%. So you were sort of, assuming that, you and your opponent are of equal skill level, a normal deck of the format versus an Oko deck, you were gaining 10%, win rate for just playing that deck. It's dumb. Those are huge numbers in Magic.
Right.
So it also had more than twice the number of 5-0 leagues than any other deck.
Crazy.
So it was performing well on that front as well.
Yeah.
So it only whereas Simic Nexus, the other deck, so the two Simic, these dominating decks, so Simic Nexus, the deck that played Nexus of Fate, only actually had one bad matchup. Do you know what that was?
What was that matchup, Max?
Simic Food. And so they had to. So when they banned Oko, they were like, "Oh, okay, Simic Nexus. This deck that I'm about to explain now, his natural predator's gone. So this absolutely has to go as well."
Mm-hmm.
So Simic Nexus was a whole bunch of like filtering, cantripping, and like ramp cards, like Search for His Canter, being able to, Tameo, Collector of Tales, Sylvan Reclamation, that basically meant that along with like cards like Fogs and the like.
Sylvan Reclamation? Which one's Sylvan Reclamation?
Oh no, not Sylvan Reclamation. Wilderness Reclamation.
Oh right, okay, you're right, yeah.
Wilderness Reclamation to basically mean that like you and growth spirals and so on. So you try to accelerate your mana development as quickly as possible, whilst turning off all of your opponents' like creature removal because you didn't play creatures. And if they tried to swing at you and clock you out with creatures, you just fogged them. And then all of this was in aid of you would dig through your library for copies of Nexus of Fate. And when you arrived at Nexus of Fate, you cast it, got to take an extra turn, and you use the Wilderness Reclamation to untap at your end step as well, so that you could use effects like Searcher's Canter and Castle Vantress to dig deeper and find it more reliably.
Grab another one.
But you could just basically go and find the same 4 copies of the extra 10 spells, stack them up, and then what was the win condition?
Your win condition is normally some random innocuous little spell. The one was like Callous Dismissal, which is a 2 mana, return a target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and you amass 1.
Yeah,
and
you just cast
if you've got infinite turns and Tamios to pick it up out of the graveyard over and over again, you just cast that a bunch eventually, and there you go, you've won the game. But I mean, the deck effectively went infinite, kind of, after a certain point.
It wasn't properly infinite because it was like a non-deterministic sort of process of like finding the next one,
which I mean, in itself was kind of part of the problem, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was awful because you'd be sitting there with, let's say, 20 power worth of creatures on boards. Your opponent's on 6 life, and you're like, if they're on their 18th
turn in a row.
You've got 27 counter or like lightning bolts, counter spells, whatever you want in hand. You're like, if I get one more turn, they are dead 7 ways to Sunday. There's nothing they can do. I've got the questing beast, so they can't even fog my next attack step.
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter because
you're not getting that next turn, buddy.
You'll never get it with cards like Dig Through Time in the format and so on as well. Just being able to like leverage the cards that you just incidentally chucked in your yard to like dig even further and find the next copy of Nexus of Fate or the next. You just got put in this horrible state of like garbage.
That little part of your lizard brain that just goes, there's like a 0.2% chance they miss. I've got to see it through. What if they do miss and fizzle? They're dead. They're not going to miss.
Yeah, they never fizzle. Like you can waste 20 minutes of time, and everything about the card was problematic. So it's just like this.
So that's kind of like the gameplay. I mean, just to touch on what you didn't mention is that the other kind of linchpin of the deck was Wilderness Reclamation, which is just a 4 mana green enchantment. Lets you untap your lands at your end step, and because Nexus is an instant, you just do a bunch of stuff. It essentially like turbo ramps you because you just play a load of instant speed spells, do a load of stuff at your own step. Funny enough, I'll talk about it later actually, but like there was another card that I think could have been banned alongside this. But yeah, so that's kind of like the gameplay aspect. Miserable to play against, miserable to like watch or anything.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
But also there was another sort of side effect of sort of related to watching it. And that's the actual card itself, the physical card. What was the issue with that, Max?
So it was a buy a box promo.
Buy a box promo card, Nexus of Fate. Yep. So you pay, what was it, like 80 quid or something for a 85 quid for a pre-release.
Well, if you're buying it from a local game store, probably closer to 100 to be honest.
Yeah.
To actually get the buy a box promo. So you're paying like 90 to £100. You're getting this buy a box promo along with the booster box. And
sorry to interrupt, but normally those buy box promos are pretty like, innocuous, like fun cards, right? That you
a lot of the time. I'm trying to remember like other examples that we've had.
I might be completely wrong about that because I've not actually looked into that at all before making that statement.
No. So like the first one that we had was Firesong and Sunspeaker for Dominaria, which was a fantastic example of like what a buy a box promo if you are going to
absolute trash.
It's a trash card, but it's got some like EDH build around. It's a big 6 mana Boros 4/6 creature that like has some text about lifelink and instants and sorceries and so on. It's like a very specific deck that like wants you to build around it, but like has no real standard application. Fantastic. Nexus of Fate was an extra turn spell with like a load of the safety valves that they have for these extra turn spells to stop them being busted, just flicked off.
Yep.
It's like,
You know what?
sorcery speed, nah.
Yeah.
Exiles and Resolution, nah. Shuffle back into your deck, but from anywhere. Just like a load of like nonsense things that like on.
Oh my god, I gotta say that's such a feel bad when you like if you were a mill player, for example, and you mill their Nexus of Fates and they just shuffle straight back into their library. It's like, no, I can't even like snipe them out of their library.
Yeah, it's honestly it's so miserable because you just have this really really obnoxious little
like inevitability machine, like
exactly that's what it is. And the decks that play them don't really have to dedicate any significant amount of their deck to actually trying to win the game, so you're just stuck in this awful garbage time
like loop,
for ages, where like you've effectively lost the game, or won the game if you're the Nexus player. May God have mercy on your soul.
Yeah, look, if you were a Nexus player, like, and you enjoyed it or whatever, I get it. That's cool, man. Like, people wanted to, you want to. We said earlier we're kind of spiky. We enjoy winning games. Yep. We enjoy trying to win. But if you took this deck to an FNM, you were like just objectively you were a bad person. Like, there's no real way around it. Like, you take it to a more competitive setting, like. You're still like a pretty bad person, but like a little bit more.
I still wouldn't want to have you in the house. I wouldn't let let you be my friend.
Yeah, but you're not coming to my birthday party if you were intentionally casting Nexus of Fate alongside Wilderness Reclamation at any point.
Yeah, so. But so it was this awful buy box promo. It was only available in foil, so they all warped. So the coverage became terrible because they were all had to be taken out of decks, and you just had like. People casting basic mountains with Sharpie at each other.
Yeah.
So it looked terrible.
Oh god, I didn't even think about the mirrors. I didn't even think about mirrors, but when you just said it at each other, it's like there must have been Nexus of Fate mirrors. Oh my god.
And they were miserable. The card is an abomination, and I'm very, very glad that it's gone. Even if it wasn't taken out for like a power level issue. Being like taken out because it creates like awful gameplay and awful play patterns, I think is sometimes reason enough. Like that's part of the reason that Sensei's Divining Top got taken out in Legacy was just that like whilst also like a powerful card that was part of like the Legacy Blue White Miracles package that was dominating at the time, it was also just like super obnoxious as a card to just have in the format because it's like when anything happened, spin the top. And just Nexus is bad, and anyone that likes it should feel bad.
Yeah, because I remember having some arguments with a friend of mine who I will remain unnamed, but you know who you are. That this was not actually a great deck. And I think the misconception there is just like on its just face, like Nexus of Fate itself, in a void. Doesn't seem like a particularly powerful card, right? Because it's like a 7 mana. Take an extra. You can get an extra turn for a cheaper rate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it shuffles back into the library, so you can't do any like graveyard shenanigans with it. The problem with it though is that like almost everything in life, it does exist in a context, and that context happened to be this like great shell that like let you kind of like turbo power through your deck, dig for it. And because it's a green deck, it had some of the best sideboard card options and, best ramp options and everything else. Not just in Pioneer, but in, in every other format that this, like, disgusting thing popped up in. So, Yeah. So thank God Nexus of Fate is hit the cutting room floor.
Okay, so that's it for the list of banned cards.
Yeah.
But now we're actually looking at, like, what do you think's next for the format? And do you think necessarily, James, that there are cards on sort of the watch list, so to speak, cards that you think are, lined up, head on the chopping block to maybe get axed in the future?
Well, I mean, they haven't there's been no ban list updates for quite a while now. And I think they've like slowed them down and synced them up with normal ban list for every other format.
So as of January 6th, I believe, sort of Pioneer, as of Wizards announcements, left its kind of like open beta phase, and is now a format proper. So they're not going to be banning as aggressively anymore, but they sort of reserve the right to ban, when and if things get out of hand.
Yeah, so I imagine there is some stuff on the watch list. I mean, so the one that I hear people complain about over and over again, and look, I get it, all right. I don't think this card is an absolute domineering powerhouse card, right? But I think it's got potential to be banned because of its passive ability and its Teferi Time Raveler. I think he's probably one of the better planeswalkers that's left around in the format now.
Whoa, let's slow things down a bit here, James.
I see what you did there. You did it. It's funny, yeah, because he says that on the game. Yeah,
on the game.
Yeah.
No, so what is it about him that you think really pushes him over the edge?
I think his abilities are actually fine. I just think his static text, where your opponents have to play Hearthstone, or you have to play Hearthstone if you're having it played against you, leads to some pretty miserable games. Control mirrors are pretty much decided by that, because he shuts off all of your counter spells and interactive spells, pretty much. So he's pretty miserable in control mirrors. He also, will shut off a lot of, your kind of heroic intervention type ways that some of the Pharaoh decks have against fighting against Wrath. Just shuts, he shuts off instant speed interaction for your opponent, and I think that's the big thing that's alongside the fact that he's got some very relevant abilities, letting you Supreme Verdict at instant speed, for example, in a control deck, or playing in a kind of Azorius Spirits or Bant.
Yeah, bouncing a spell queller with a card under it.
Yeah, there's a lot of more expensive cool stuff that he shuts off. Yeah, because you can't cast the card if you have to ferry out if you bounce the spell queller. But there's things like Torrential Gearhulk, which get super shut off, which is one of the cooler kind of ways for a control deck to kind of take over a game, because you can't flash it in, and also when you do flash it in, you just can't cast the spell that you've targeted.
It also shuts off, because there used to be sort of play patterns that you could do against control decks, where you could go in the control player's end step, I'm going to do something, try and kill their big Teferi, or or flash in a creature, do something that the control player is going to want to counter, and then on my turn, it was a way to sort of do the double spell kind of thing, where you try and choke the control player out on mana or counter spells or whatever, and just the ability to go no, we're playing Hearthstone now. You don't get to do those interesting control, those play patterns. They just don't happen. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree that Teferi, despite owning 3 or 4 copies of the card myself, I think that he does create some pretty stale patterns, and I mean, you don't get to do that cool stuff.
If you do look at the metagame, he's not actually as dominating as people seem to make him out. But I just think the kind of bleh game situations that he leads to is what could potentially lead to him being watched. I will say, however, people don't give him credit for this, but when Simic Reclamation was rampaging around, he did shut off that deck single-handedly, which I think he really deserves the spot of hero of Dominaria at that point. What a cool guy. Anyway, yeah. So I'm saying Teferi Time Raveler's probably on the watch list.
Yeah, get rid of Idris Elba. You've said it. You've heard it.
Yeah. Sorry, just a side note. Idris Elba, right? Cool actor. Fantastic in The Wire. One of the best TV shows of all time. Probably the best TV show of all time. But Idris, he just seems to take on any role he's get he's in so much garbage now.
Yeah, as a brief aside, I got told to watch Luther a year ago, and I heard oh, you know what? We've got Idris Elba in it. I've heard really good things. Everyone seems to love this.
First season's alright. Kind of. But
then it goes downhill fast.
Bad. Very bad.
Yeah.
Me and my partner watched the whole. We've watched all of it, and by the last season, we were just like, "What the fuck is this?" like,
Yeah. Yeah, it jumped the shark, so to speak.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah,
it just made
and
it get like just take some better roles. You're worth it. Like you're a good actor. So
yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, maybe he's, I don't know, like saving up to buy a legacy deck or something.
yeah,
It just needs the dollar.
That's got to be it. That's got to be it.
So
sorry, what? Yeah, what have you got on your?
I think for me, it is Elvish Mystic. I want that gone. So I don't have a problem with one mana accelerants being legal in the format, but I think that they currently exist at such a density where you can reliably have access to one on turn one, and I think that leads to really rubbish games because I think that when you are on the receiving end of like one mana, turn one mana accelerant into like 3-drop, 4 drops and so on, and just this kind of accelerated kind of game plan from the green player, it feels really, really bad. And I think that you also limit the amount of like cool stuff that you can effectively print in the format if you have to, as a designer, think like, but what if it comes down a turn earlier?
Yeah.
What if a 1 mana spell powers it out just that little bit faster? So I think that and I'm inclined to keep Llanowar Elves because it's the OG.
I'm going to disagree. I think Llanowar Elves is the worst card because it Llanowar Elves, but it's only one. And it's awful to say. I'm sorry, but that is an awful clunky.
Yeah, no, I would agree that it is
Llanowar
awful to
Elves.
say.
Elvish Mystic rolls off the tongue. So let's keep that one in and get rid of Llanowar Elves.
I mean, we can edit that.
Yeah,
out,
no,
sure.
I think I'm right. I agree. Yes, very good. I'm gonna sentence mix everything. Just be like, yes, James, I agree with you.
Yeah, poll in the comments. How wrong is James out of 10?
With 0 being I'm right.
Not an option. You're quite right. Anyway, yeah. So that's my. What do you think? Do you think that?
Yeah, no.
Do you think that I'm right?
I think that makes sense. Like, I think that makes sense personally. Like, yeah, there's probably it's kind of cool having the option of mana dorks, but there's just like potentially like you could have up to like what, like, is it 15 accelerant? 16 accelerants, right?
Yeah, 16 like ways of getting access to 3 mana on turn 2.
Goose, Grazer, Elvish Mystic, Llanowar Elves. Like,
yeah,
okay.
And as well, like what I don't want to happen with Pioneer is that every few months we just get like the vintage problem where they just like in vintage, because they won't ban workshops, they have to ban like random artifacts every few months because workshops is obviously able to power them out in like turn 1 or whatever, like put a Trinisphere on turn 1 and so on, or so vintage they restrict them. But like the real problem is Mishra's workshop,
right?
And I feel that there is that tendency in Pioneer to go like, oh my god, these green decks have got so many good top end cards, and they do.
Yeah.
But what makes them oppressive, is that they're coming out so much quicker than they should be because they're powered out with consistency with these turn 1 accelerants.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of ripping out the actual problem rather than
hard mulligan on 1 mana accelerant.
If it's you look at the reclamation deck and you could go like, well, we could ban reclamation or we could ban like search for Azcanta or Tammy. You could do all these things, but the deck's called Simic Nexus, so just strip out the Nexus. Yeah,
exactly.
No, I'm with you. I think maybe the other card on the list like could be like Dig Through Time if there's like more degenerate combo decks to start using it. Maybe.
Yeah. As the format like gets older, I think that the likelihood of Dig Through Time potentially becoming as more cards get added to the pool, I think that like Dig Through Time is going to start to like sweat nervously and look around because
that gif of Jordan Peele just like
because that's the thing, isn't it? It's just that at the moment it is fine because you just can't reliably fill up your yard that quickly, unless you're dedicating a huge amount of your deck to do it. And then in that kind of circumstance, Dig Through Time isn't necessarily that problematic. But yeah, if you're just kind of jamming it into anything, like it's there are some deck building costs to it.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of more or less good for us
Yeah.
this episode. We've kind of, I think, given you our kind of really sort of like medium take on the format. I mean, just in general though, you're enjoying this format, right? Like it's fun, it's new.
Yeah. Oh, massively.
Evolving pretty fast. We were gonna.
It's fun. It's fast.
I think we were originally going to talk about some of the decks to look out for, but we've decided that given this weekend is literally the first Pioneer GP that's happening, kind of official like sanctioned one.
Yeah, exciting times.
We're gonna maybe next week dig into that, or next time dig into some of the lists and talk about the decks to beat. So
this has been an episode of like where we've come from, and then the next episode is like where we're going.
Yeah.
Something, Cotton Eye Joe.
That's good. All right, good lead out. So last, we'd like to go to a little off-topic bit just before we head off, where maybe we recommend some like TV or some media or films or whatever that we've maybe seen or we're looking forward to seeing. So Max, do you have anything that you wanna give a shout out to? Something you've enjoyed recently?
Yeah, I do.
I actually knew that he did want to do that because we talked about this in advance. That wasn't spontaneous.
Yeah, I think it's this illusion of spontaneity. We're really nailing it.
I actually don't know what he's going to say though. So
yeah. Well, yeah. The thing that I'm feeling at the moment, the thing that I'm really gunning for is the TV show Fleabag. 2 seasons. We're not getting any more. They're both like 6-episode seasons. None of the episodes are massively long, so it's a really like small commitment to watch. I massively missed the boat like when everyone was like hyping this up ages ago, and it was one of those programs that I'd sort of go, oh yeah, I'll get around to watching that, I'm sure. And I eventually did, and it's amazing, really, really good. This like tightly plotted, amazingly acted bit of like dystopian, well, not dystopian, like middle class, like dysfunctional, like people, dealing with like massive amounts of like baggage and stuff. It's just fantastic. Just a really, really tight, good premise. Great show. I don't want to give any details away about it because I feel just going in and watching it's probably for the best thing. Definitely don't watch it with kids or like older family members. I think it's definitely something to watch.
Okay.
It's for mature audiences, I think. It is fantastic.
Grown-ups like us who enjoy children's card games.
Yeah, exactly.
The point of wanting to actually talk about it for just over an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. Mature people.
Yeah. What about you, James?
I am going to say something I'm looking forward to seeing, which I think is coming out either today or tomorrow. It might be today, actually. Is I want to go see a movie called The Lighthouse, which is directed by the guy who directed The Witch, which is a great.
Is that the Vivitch one?
Yeah, the Vivitch, which is a fantastic, creepy horror film, and The Lighthouse looks like it's just a bizarre nightmare of a movie in a good way, not in like a bad
Civic Nexus sort of way.
Sorry.
Not in a Civic Nexus sort of bizarre nightmare.
No. As in, just like it looks like a weird movie, and I like weird movies. They're
nice,
entertaining. So yeah, I'm really excited to watch The Lighthouse.
Okay,
and
heard it here first, folks.
Still haven't seen it, but I do want to see Cats. I don't know if it's still in theaters or whatever. Now that
Speaking
looks like
of bizarre nightmares. Yeah.
Now that looks like a bizarre nightmare for a whole. Oh, and has Idris Elba in it. Again, he's back at it again, taking terrible roles for no apparent reason other than...
Oh, yeah, but, like, I think everyone... Like, Serene McKellen's in that movie, Dame Judi Dench is in that movie.
Oh, right, okay, so everyone was just, like, off their mind on
exactly.
substance.
I think it's like an Ozymandias-style hubris thing. Like, just, I cannot fail, I'm too successful. They said at the premiere.
Yeah, Taylor Swift's in it, I think, as well.
James Corden. Like she has like quite a big like scene where like it's just this weird kind of like I don't know. She sprays like horny chemicals on all of the other cats. It's really Like that, I hear that's a genuine scene. Again, I'm
Really?
just going on like Twitter, so like don't at me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. So you've heard it here first, folks. My recommendation's Fleabag, and James's recommendation was definitely Cats.
Definitely Cats. Yep. I love
Not
the
The
movie.
Lighthouse.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's gonna be it from us today, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. Follow us on whatever thing this is on, probably YouTube.
Yeah. We'll sort out platforms at some point.
Yeah,
I
we
guess.
have no social media at the moment sorted out because we assume no one's gonna watch this. Other than maybe
this is for us.
Yeah, this is our thing. This is our thing. Don't feel included.
Yeah, exactly.
This is
And
how
we
you...
don't have a Patreon, and if you want to give us money, you can't. And you should feel bad because there are more important things to give it to than us.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you do want to give us money, please tell us.
Unless you were a Simic Nexus player, in which case you should immediately donate all of your worldly possessions to a charity, and maybe you'll atone for some of the bad that you've done in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you around. See you later. Bye bye.
In a bit, guys.